Thanks for tuning in. You are listening to the Brain Software Podcast, coming to you from Toronto, Canada, the hypnotic world epicenter, where we discuss NLP, personal development, and of course, hypnosis. Today, we'll be talking all about how you can make your brain focus on what you want. So stay tuned.
Willoughby, next station stop, Willoughby. Willoughby is next.
Dad, isn't Willoughby the town in that scary episode of The Twilight Zone from 1960?
It sure as hell is, son. And that's where we're headed. Where we're all headed. Every damn one of us.
But seriously, folks, whatever happened to that old tranquility we used to know?
These are days of the Twilight Zone.
Cut! Let's get the line right, people. Action!
These are days of victory.
Yes, it's a lazy kind of day in Willoughby, so let's take advantage of the hole in the reality grid and welcome to the first-class compartment of the Rod Serling locomotive, a man who has turned fitness into a fashion statement, the brand new mentalist kid on the block, the mannish boy himself, Chris Thompson!
That's me! Thank you very much, Mr. Mandel.
You're the mannish boy.
Oh, I love it.
That's fantastic.
Buddy, this is an exciting day. It's raining, which I know you love.
It's raining, man. I'm thrilled, yeah.
And so there's a couple of things we're going to unpack really quick before we get into the content of today's episode, which is all about tuning your reticular activating system so that you can get more of what you want in life. And we're actually going to teach you the entire navigator system, which is for sale on our website, but you can learn it here anyway, at least get the basics of it down for free in this podcast. So stick around, stay tuned. It's going to be awesome.
And we'll get there.
And so let's unpack. We are recording this we're actually recording this a bit earlier
October
than normal.
the 22nd.
We're building up some buffer of recorded podcasts because we're traveling. But we literally just finished the weekend with Michael C. Anthony doing a weekend of stage hypnosis training, mentalism, and performance. And it was phenomenal.
Yeah, man.
And so we'll probably get into a little bit more about it, but the class loved it. The guy literally handed people so many of the secrets to theatrical performance to make your hypnosis skills really shine, to break the ice with cool mentalism effects, which some people might call them magic or mentalism, but
magic of the mind. The thing is, he's such an exceptional presenter.
He's amazing.
And he's got such a smooth way of delivery, but it never sounds arrogant, which is amazing considering how well I know him. But he's just so friendly and helpful, but man, he's a good teacher.
He's an amazing teacher, and I was so excited because I've been friends with Michael C. Anthony for a long time through you, but I've never been able to take his class before because we've always, when we've traveled and stuff, been teaching at the same time, or we were flying home before he taught the class. This was amazing. It's just proving out the wonderful model of bringing in guest trainers so that we can take the classes. So go to MikeMandelHypnosis.com/MCA, because by the time this podcast is airing, which obviously has happened if you're listening to it, then the full digital recording of the entire weekend is available. And we put together, through the generosity of Michael C. Anthony, quite a lot of bonus material that goes along with it. So MikeMandelHypnosis.com/MCA. If you have any interest in performing, even if it's just in a pub or friends at a dinner party, or full-on stage hypnosis, if you're going to go that route, the full-on stage hypnosis, his Stage Hypnosis University is absolutely
the number
the
one
next
product,
step.
yeah.
But check it out. I think you're going to love it. The next thing we want to do is mention that, so again, if this episode is out, it should be November 22nd, 2019. We are on the final day of our November Architecture of Hypnosis class. We're in Toronto right now. And there are no more hypnosis classes for us until the spring. And we're bringing Bob Burns to Toronto, the man who created the Swan.
All the way from Scotland. Bob is a phenomenal trainer, funny as hell, an excellent hypnotist, and we've wanted to have him in Toronto for some time.
So my goal is to make sure our events page is updated prior to us publishing this podcast. Hopefully I've met that goal. There's me putting a commitment out there. So check out MikeMandelHypnosis.com/events, because we have a really great opportunity for you to not only come to Toronto and take the Bob Burns training on April 25th and 26th. But the 5 days before that, Monday through Friday, April 20 to 24, we're doing the 5-day architecture of hypnosis. So if you're thinking of coming, and we got people, last time we did this, we had 6 or so people came in from Australia.
And New Zealand.
All kinds of people all around the world came in because we were able to stack 5 days of training on top of 2 days of training from a guest trainer. In that case, it was the Jacquins, which was phenomenal.
It was.
So consider coming to that. Commercial over. Let's go on. Think
All right,
tank,
buddy.
words of the
Yeah,
day.
I generated the think tank words, and I'm getting lazy, man. I got the think tank sitting in my frickin' office, but rather than walk,
You use the website.
I use the website again.
Because you
Random
couldn't be,
noun generator.
couldn't be bothered to
Couldn't be
roll your
bothered.
wheelie chair across the room.
Shut up.
Spin the little dial.
No, just
Yeah.
before you close that other loop, let me just say how funny it is when you said, I guess people listening, which is all of you, this must be out there. When we went to the pub after the training, the 3 guys from Quebec, Ken Deloge, 2 other
Ken,
guys, the one guy with the gray
Francis.
hair, can't remember his name, good-looking guy, funny guy.
Francis.
Is that Francis?
Yeah.
So we're just sitting at the table.
He's a good-looking guy, isn't he?
He looks fit and everything. He
Yeah.
looks at me. You know what he said?
What?
I thought somebody's listening to the freaking podcast.
I love it when our students listen to the podcast and then crack podcast jokes. And it just gives us
You got
so much
Pete
joy.
in the class screaming, "We are not witches."
Yeah. We are not witches.
That's going to be our next shirt.
Every
Mike Mandel
time-
Hypnosis Academy. We are not witches world tour.
Every time Michael C. Anthony would do a Mendelism effect and blow people away, somebody would say, "He's a witch." No.
All right, let's go to the think tank
All right,
words.
think tank words of the day. We've got
3: fencing, papaya, and toad.
Oh my goodness.
Where are you going with this one, Chris? What's fencing to you?
Fencing? Well, I think of the sport fencing, and I think about flawless technique that is required to do such a good job. It's not a dangerous sport because you're all guarded and masked and stuff.
Right.
But practicing your technique in such a way that, hey, you know what? If you screw up or if you lose, if you fail, you're not going to get hurt. Nothing's going to happen.
Because you're wearing the mask.
Yeah, and if you think about it in the context of hypnosis or pretty much any of these skills that we want to get good at, let's say practicing mentalism effects or card tricks or something, just practice them. If you screw up, no big deal. Do it again.
It's funny when you say fencing, what comes to mind with me? And again,
building
these
a
are
fence.
randomly generated. A man called Vladimir Burstein, who was the coach of the Canadian pentathlon team at the 72 Olympics in Munich, where Black September had taken athletes hostage, a terrible event. But he was there, and I think pentathlon is riding, swimming, shooting, running, something like that. But he was a fencing instructor.
Yeah, there's like
And I was at
5
his
things.
apartment. He was showing me he had a Belgian pistol grip sword, and he kept stabbing me in the sternum with it. There's a button on the end.
Yeah,
it hurts
yeah,
like hell.
yeah.
And he'd say, very light, no wrist, epe.
Wow.
And I finally said to him, you do that one more time, I'm going to take that off you and shove it somewhere. And he stopped. But he was a lovely person. I haven't seen him in years. So
Okay.
fencing to me, let's look at it the other way, Chris. Building a fence around something.
Sure.
So, sure. What are we fencing? What are we fencing in? See, a fence is permeable, perhaps, unlike
Yeah.
a wall.
And it's a bit of an artificial boundary because nobody's really kept in by most fences unless it's
Right.
a penitentiary or something. But, a backyard fence or whatever, people have this illusion about how small their world is, perhaps. When It's quite a big world out there. Outside
Right,
of
so
the
maybe we
fence.
should think in terms of looking beyond the fences that we've artificially created around ourselves, around our own minds.
I
around
like
our own...
that idea.
Okay,
Yeah.
which
So
leads
how
us to
can you
papaya.
break out of that fence? Papaya. So ties in what we just said about fencing. I think about papaya as an exotic fruit, right? It's not the kind of fruit I would typically think of buying. I don't eat a ton of fruit anyway because it's high in sugar. But what is out there that you just haven't really experienced? Papaya is not something I typically eat unless I'm in the Dominican Republic on vacation or maybe
Right.
something like that, right?
Yeah.
What's out there that we're missing out on? That's awesome.
Well, I'm thinking papaya. I'm thinking of papain, the enzyme, the digestive enzyme, like bromelain from pineapples. That helps. I think it helps break down proteins. So just like pineapple, you can have it, on ham or something like that. The bromelain will help break down the meat.
Isn't that
I'm wondering if
interesting?
papain, there's something in it that's going to break down old patterns, old ideas that you fenced yourself in with, and start looking outside it. And you're going to find the third one, the toad, sitting there.
Toad, yeah. Okay, so toad makes me think of the innocence and willingness to experience new things of children. And the reason I say that is, so toad is like frog in my mind. I know they're different animals.
But they're both
same idea.
amphibians.
So when we're up at the family cottage, my in-laws have a wonderful place just near Haliburton, Ontario, and there's this pond that my father-in-law has built, and the frogs just flock to it. And for generations now, well, I exaggerate, I suppose, a bit, but for, let's say, 20 years, it's a couple of generations, the kids just love catching frogs in this pond. And they'll pick up the frogs.
They don't eat them, do they?
No, they don't. Sometimes they'll even kiss the frogs, you know. But the thing
See if they
is,
turn into princes.
kids are not afraid of frogs. And sometimes, you know, relatives are coming by or whatever, and people are afraid of frogs and screaming and think it's gross. The kids just love it. And generations of kids are just playing with these frogs and catching frogs and releasing them, not hurting them. So how can we be more like children and just be playful and experience new things?
That's nice.
What about you?
I'm hearing phonological ambiguity. I'm hearing toad as Towed.
Oh,
yeah. Like something towed behind us. Some people towed debris around with them.
Yeah, what are you carrying?
What are you carrying you don't need? I remember my dad had some old half-used cans of paint. He had a station wagon. And my mom said, where are you planning on putting those, Ken? He said, I'll just throw them in the car. She said, stop dragging your bloody garbage around with you everywhere. Throw them out. He just kept his garbage in the car.
Are you keeping inside of your fence that you can just throw over the fence?
All right, man.
Yeah. All right, so there you go. Maybe that'll tune your reticular activating system towards some interesting changes. So let's dive into it. What the heck is the reticular activating system, Mike?
RAS. It is a bundle of nerves in the brainstem. And what it does is it filters information so that we notice what is important. Now remember, you're getting 3 million to 20 million bits of information per second, all pouring into through your senses and your unconscious mind and so on. But if George Miller is correct, we're only keeping track of about 7 of these consciously.
And remember, it's a model. George Miller, people will argue, it's not really 7 plus or minus 2. It's something else. Who cares?
Yeah, it's just a model.
It's a number. It's a finite number. It's probably not a very big number of what you can keep in your conscious mind.
That was good. You've depotentiated any
problem. You're wrong, Mike.
Well, Linda phones in right away. Like, I know that it's 8.
In case anyone's wondering, that was a few podcast episodes ago. Linda was so upset with us.
Here's the thing. It determines information permitted to get to our conscious awareness based on what is important to us.
Yeah. So, that makes tons of sense. You're not gonna be thinking about things that are unimportant to you.
Right. And the thing is too, if you take on an interest in something, a fascination with a subject, you'll start seeing it everywhere all of a sudden. It's a friend of mine, Dave Morgan. He used to be a Toronto Transit Commission driver, I think, and his obsession and fascination and hobby is with things like paintings of subway cars and streetcars. And it's actually kind of cool, and model streetcars and things like that. You can believe that anything on a shelf about that subject, bang, his brain would spot it instantly because it's feeding his fascination. Your brain, your reticular activating system, is scanning all the stuff coming in at an unconscious level and presenting to your conscious awareness that which is important to you.
You know, this is kind of scary, Mike, because if people were to go back and listen to several episodes of When the Lawn Tree Blooms, they're going to wonder about our fascination.
Everything changes when the lawn tree blooms. Now, notice how things get through. When we had the Michael C. Anthony class, remember when you and I were giving out the certificates with him at the front?
At the very end of the class, yes.
Give them their notebook, an envelope to put the certificate in, the certificate itself.
Yeah, we're just calling people's name out.
Right.
Ken.
But the room was busy and the room was loud and people were all talking. But I noticed if I said someone's name, bing. Yeah, even though there was background noise, even if they weren't looking, there's no microphone. They picked up on it instantly.
Yes.
Our name is filtered through very, very quickly. We can hear that in a crowd, even spoken quietly. And then it often turns into, what did you just say about me? You know, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's the reticular activating system.
Okay, so the reticular activating system is a bundle of nerves in the brainstem that helps us focus on what is important, filters information so we notice what's important.
But it also filters things for the confirmation bias.
Okay,
now,
so that means if you believe something
fervently,
even if it's true or not, regardless, you're going to naturally see evidence that confirms your belief, and you're naturally going to discard information. Well, I guess you're not necessarily going to naturally discard it, but you're naturally going to be on the lookout and unconsciously spotting stuff that seems to confirm your belief.
Right, and we do it consciously and unconsciously. Just look at our own Google searches, all of us, right? If I happen to believe that a particular hypnosis trainer is an idiot, then I'm going to Google things like, is so-and-so an idiot?
Yeah.
Proof that so-and-so is a freaking fool.
Why are you Googling me?
Paranoia. And so, yeah, my Google searches will automatically go with my bias.
Yeah.
So, but this is happening all the time. If we believe something is true, we will take in the information and have it presented to our conscious awareness that tends to support that rather than undermine it.
Okay, so here's a real life example of how that might have worked if we wanted to take on the belief that everybody out there is a thief. The world's just full of robbers, people who want to steal from you. Well, when we were in the classroom for the weekend, remember we taught mindscaping on Friday night. You know where this is going, Mike. But for the listeners out there, you guys are just getting a little backstory here. So Friday night we taught mindscaping. Michael C. Anthony's, Friday day, I meant, that's it.
Yeah.
Friday daytime, we taught mindscaping. We left some of our equipment in an equipment room, in a room that was supposed to be locked. Our classroom was supposed to be locked and under security. Well, we show up Saturday morning to start the Michael C. Anthony training, and to our horror, about $1,500 worth of our equipment has been stolen.
Including Mike's suitcase.
Including Michael's suitcase,
all
of his mentalism gear that was in there, his MacBook charger, my big Bluetooth PA speaker, my camera, our HD camera, which thankfully we didn't need because our videographer, our awesome videographer, Jake, and Adrian, who he brought in as well to help, they had their own camera equipment. Point being, we got robbed, and it kind of messed up the beginning of our class. And if we had taken on a negative attitude and a belief that, everyone out there is a thief, the next time we're talking to someone, telling them the story, they're going to relay, oh yeah, I got robbed once too, and suddenly we're going to confirm this view in our mind that everyone's a damn thief, right?
Yeah.
Now, we didn't want to do that. But anyway, that's how this stuff tends to work. You get this negative attitude.
Well, let's make a
focus your
clarification
RAS
on that.
and your beliefs towards things that are helpful to you.
Well, we'll get to the positive side, but let's look at let's clarify what you just said. So we're not picking on any particular group of people, which of course is reprehensible if we were. Let's say aliens from the planet Jupiter.
Yeah.
Jovians.
Jovians.
You know those Jovians? They're all thieves.
Yeah.
Every damn one of them.
Damn one of them. They're
trust
thieves.
Them. So Jupiter.
They fly in from Jupiter and they rob us and they fly back.
If I see a Jovian in a supermarket or a group of them, I think, those bastards, what are they up to?
Yes.
They're up to, look, they're just waiting to rob someone.
Exactly.
That's the
your
kind of
confirmation bias.
But the reticular activating system is supporting it. So I hope that clarified.
Totally. And that's why when the media focuses on particular cultures and claims that they have, or not just claims, it's just highlighting, here's a person from a particular culture that did a bad thing.
Feeds that.
You see enough of that crap.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, all those people, and notice I'm not naming anything.
Right. Jovians.
All those
Martians.
Jovians, they're all whatever.
Yeah.
I don't even want to say
reprehensible.
What kind of,
And, but let's look at the positive, buddy. The positive is, this is how the law of attraction, so-called, works.
So you can use it to your advantage.
It's not mystical. There is nothing whatever mystical about it. And you are tuning your own reticular activating system and putting it on the things you want out of life. Now, if you constantly focus on what you don't want, that's where your focus is. Yeah, if you get up in the morning,
I don't want to be scared of bridges anymore, Mike.
Or just even automatically processing everything as a negative. What's wrong today? What's wrong with this? What's horrible about today? In fact, if you start to tune your reticular activating system by asking things like, what's wrong with my life? Believe me, day after day, if you keep asking this, you're going to find your life will go to hell very quickly. It'll get very bad.
How am I going to not be so depressed today, Mike?
What about how can I be happy?
How am I going to make sure that I don't feel so uncomfortable in front of other people?
No, but
this is not going to help.
Those are good questions. But the good examples. Now, the law of attraction, the idea that what you focus on intently, you tend to attract to you. Well, let me give you an alternative explanation. It's not that you're attracting it. I don't believe the human brain has any magnetic power. But I think what's happening is the RAS begins to make you aware of your surroundings that will support what you want. You'll hear snippets of conversations. You'll catch a glimpse of a book. You'll notice something in a magazine and go, that's just that thing I wanted.
Your calibration skills will be tuned towards that.
Isn't that the truth, Chris? Yeah. Perfect. And it's tuned by if we have a great desire for something, like if I really, there's a lot of people who desire to win the lottery.
Yeah.
But it's not happening. Because that isn't reasonable.
Because you can't, exactly. You can't just think about, how am I going to win that lottery today? That's not going to change the outcome. You have no influence.
No control over the outcome at all. But if you start asking questions like, how can I grow my business? How can I make more money today? And you're intently focusing on that, your unconscious mind will start to bring to your awareness things that will support that.
I'll give you an example. So lately, as I think we mentioned on several different podcasts, I've talked about how I really like the aspect of, in hypnosis, some of the best hypnosis trainers out there are the ones like you and Michael C. Anthony who have real presentation skills. They make things entertaining and theatrical in some way. And so I'm very interested in improving that area of my life. And so I'll take note when somebody just performs something flawlessly or in some way that surprised me, like, oh, that was an interesting way that was delivered. I take note of that.
Nice.
And I wouldn't have noticed that a few years ago.
But now because you have a desire to improve that area of your life, your brain is showing you these opportunities automatically.
And then what happens? We go, oh, let's bring MCA into Toronto to teach a class. I get to spend that weekend learning this stuff.
No kidding.
It's amazing.
Now, you can tune your RAS with a strong desire.
Right.
Even just putting your attention or interest on something.
Which means also spending some time focusing that attention
well, for
on,
sure.
yeah.
I mean, like I said, with Dave Morgan and his Toronto Transit Commission interest, like this is a fascination with him. So it's naturally tuning his brain to notice this stuff. I gave the example, I'll be really quick with it. Years ago, I bought a 35 millimeter Minolta SLR camera from Henry's Camera Store in Toronto, which is a big camera store, or was at the time. And
it still is. I was just there to replace my our stolen camera.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Amazing. Oh, synchronicity.
Yeah,
It's
isn't that
already
awesome?
Woo! So anyway, I didn't know anything about photography, and all my pictures turned out looking ridiculous. Hi, we're standing here. So my
I've
wife
seen
inherited
some of
it.
yours.
You've
They
seen
are-
them. They're
yeah.
terrible. But because I'm auditory. So we came out of the store. I came out of the store, and a bus was going by, and I'm all excited. I got a camera. I got a 35 millimeter camera, and this bus on the side, there's an ad, Nikon. And wow. I look up, there's Hasselblad, Ricoh, Pentax. Everywhere I looked, there were camera ads all of a sudden. Who the hell put those there while I was in the store?
You were standing outside of Henry's photography store. Of course there were cameras.
They weren't on the store, you fool. Very good.
Yeah,
But they were on
hilarious.
buses and like up on billboards and things. And I was just absolutely shocked. But my new fascination with photography, the RAS was tuned and my brain's going, here's something you'll be interested in.
Yep.
Now, when it actually freaked me out the most was a number of years ago. I had a book when I was a kid, the Peterkin Papers. It was short stories, one of my favorite childhood books, tied to my childhood ego states. And I thought, really thinking about the book, I thought, man, I'd love to get that book again. That was before the web, it must be early 1990s. You couldn't just go on line.
Google didn't exist yet.
The Google didn't, the
Google.
Facebook didn't,
Yeah.
Advanced Book Exchange and that weren't there and that. Anyway, there was no way of getting it unless you search bookstores. I totally forgot, but I really had wanted it. Weeks, if not months later, Chris, I'm in Yonge Street, the big street in Toronto, walking up Yonge Street in the rain, longest street in the world, actually. It goes to James Bay. And pouring rain, it's too wet even for me. I duck into a doorway, notice, it's a used bookstore, thousands of books. Walked in the door, and as I walked in, 10 steps in, my brain is turning my head, and I knew half a second before I saw it, the Peterkin Papers was on the top shelf. Just
because your brain had calibrated that color.
The color, it's pink and gray cover, and it noticed it before my conscious mind did, and I knew that's what I was going to see and bought it for $2.
Awesome.
Reticular activating system. Now, do you think this is how synchronicity works?
Explain.
Well, synchronicity is supposedly meaningful coincidences. I gave the example of my dad talking about the 19-set tank radio and then going 10 minutes later to the underground parking of 1227 York Mills. There's one sitting there.
Yeah.
Now,
for
I
sure.
don't think that's the RAS bringing that to him.
No, well, it might have. I mean,
it's
the
too
most
weird.
logical conclusion is that 19 set was already there and he just hadn't noticed
know.
it. But because he had this fascinating conversation,
It might have unconsciously gone into his
and it
mind.
showed up all of a sudden because he
Right.
noticed it, where he wasn't noticing it
Get
earlier.
your confusing cause and effect, right?
Yeah, exactly, which is a logical fallacy.
Now,
known
he
as
swore... Oh,
the post hoc logical fallacy,
post
right?
hoc
When you-
ergo propter
just
hoc.
because something happened, it must have been caused by.
Yeah. Because one thing occurred before the other one doesn't mean it caused it. But it's fascinating stuff. What examples have you had from your life of this kind of RAS tuning?
I can think of a few. So first of all, because I am the marketing guy in this business and I love marketing and learning about marketing, I spend a lot of time thinking about it. And then when something happens, I'll see something and I'll go, oh my God, that's a brilliant marketing idea. And I'll tell you about it and you'll go, that's genius. You know, that kind of stuff happens a lot. Another one is, you might not even think I'm going to say this, but do you remember back in the 1990s when you started doing those brain software keynotes?
Yes.
And when
1992 was the
when
first
I was
one.
at Carleton University and I saw you do, was it 92 or 93?
Yeah, 92 was my first one.
Okay, so I was there for the second one. The second
No, but
year.
I wasn't at Carleton in 92. That's why. I just started doing them in 92.
You were there for my first. You did a stage hypnosis show,
Right.
in September of 1992 at Carleton University.
Okay, but it wasn't brain software.
No,
keynote.
you didn't do brain software until September 93. Anyway, when you did that, so it was, I can pin it down to September 1993, Frosh Week, and I was a second year engineering student, facilitator for Frosh Week, and I participated in that seminar, and you taught us a bunch of little things, but one of them was the importance of when people say try, and that try implies failure. So, you know, are you going to make it to that party this weekend? Oh, I'll try. Well, you just did such an interesting job of presenting these topics that it stayed in my mind. So from that point on, until now, like many years later,
You hear try all the time?
If I hear try, bing, like instant remembering what Mike taught me in 1993 when I was just a kid in the crowd, and that the word try implies, no, it's not going to happen, kind of thing. So that was another one. And
That's
then maybe the only other one is lately, as you know, for the last probably 6 years, I've been really obsessed with Tesla. Tesla, the car manufacturer, Elon, anything Elon Musk. I just think it's so fascinating what they've done. And so I just happened to notice Tesla stuff everywhere. If there's a Tesla on the road, I'll spot it a mile away.
Grab
right?
it in your eyes.
Boom,
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
that. Oh,
Grab
there's
it
a
in
Model
your
S
eyes,
coming
I
our
said.
way. Oh, there's a
Idiotic.
Model 3 coming our way, or any articles, any stories. It's just like...
Anybody who is not amazed by Tesla cars has obviously never frickin' been in one.
Yeah.
Because when you go in one and the driver puts his foot to the floor and the front of your face sticks to the back of the seat, you feel like you're in the space shuttle. It's silent. It's like, oh man, whoa, this stuff really comes out.
It's like when I was a kid and I had a electric racing car set, you know, the little... The black
Road race
plastic
set.
tracks that interconnect with the little electrical wiring, and then the little trigger handle thing that you pull the trigger and the cars just fly off the track. Crazy.
I still love that thing.
Yeah, that's Tesla.
Gee,
all right,
I'd sure love to have one of those again. Start thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
I'd go home and Heather says, look what I just found you, this road race set.
Yeah,
Mike.
wouldn't
Okay,
that
now,
be cool?
how can we benefit from this? Understanding that the RAS presents things to our conscious awareness. It presents things we focus on. It presents things that we are interested in. It presents things we are passionate about. And by using this wonderful tool, we can change our lives. And we like people to see the example of how simple this is and how startling. A number of years ago when we started this podcast, I'll be really short with this, we did something called the quarter game. Now, again, I do not for one moment believe this is mystical, and neither does Chris. But this is a Robert Anton Wilson thing I got from his book Prometheus Rising, I believe. You imagine vividly that the ground is strewn with quarters. You're going to find quarters everywhere. I'm talking about 25-cent pieces, Canadian or American, if you're from another nation. And you just use the coin of your own realm, if you like. And you're going to find one when you go outside and vividly imagine this. And when you vividly imagine it to a strong enough degree, you forget about it. And man, oh man, it freaked me out. There'd be one beside the door of my car, one inside... right inside a package of, sitting next to a package of candy or something in the airport, right in front of me, just over and over, startling. And it will look as though it was placed there for you to find. I am convinced this is the RAS. I'm convinced there's quarters all over the place. It's a common enough coin. We just start noticing them because our unconscious starts bringing them to our awareness. But if you want to do that, it'll sure show you that it works.
Okay, what's next? So,
well, goal setting. Why does
the
goal
one
setting?
word.
No, but first
Or
of all,
goal setting in general.
Yeah, like people say that what made their goals work was when they started writing them
yeah,
down
you
and
write
reviewing
it
them.
down.
There's
when you
something-
write it down, you're doing something kinesthetic. You're
Something
seeing
intention.
it visually. You're probably having internal dialogue.
And then if you review what you've written down periodically,
You're firing that
you're
RAS.
constantly
You're tuning
tuning
it.
I remember when I read the Tony Robbins book, Unlimited Power, years ago, and got interested in NLP, didn't know what it was. And I determined one of the things I was going to do was study and learn NLP. That was one of my goals.
It's right on my bookshelf, right there. Isn't that cool? There you
That's
go.
not a synchronicity, Chris. But it didn't just appear because of the RAS.
No, it didn't.
But then I went on to become not just a practitioner and a master practitioner, but an NLP trainer, meet Richard Bandler, become friends with Dr. John Grinder. It just cascaded and kept building from the interest. So writing down goals is very powerful.
And then reviewing them.
Them frequently.
To keep them in that RAS.
But the one word is another one we love because it's a big chunk.
The one word is a simple way of doing things. It's this big chunk one word, like my word for this current year is new. Your word is onward. And our wonderful friend Afonso gave us those bracelets that he recommends we turn into keychains for convenience. And they have engraved in them our one word for the year. So when you think, for example, onward, when you say to yourself onward on a regular basis, that tunes you towards whatever that word means to you.
Yes, to what it means to me.
If that meant to you onward in your keynote speaking business, for example, then you'll go for more gigs. But I know that's not what it means to you. You're not really focused on doing more and more of that. You're focused on onward in...
Focused on what we're doing.
We're doing, our business, or your fitness, your health, all that stuff. Onward is just... For you, it means something different than to anyone else.
That's right.
And it aims you towards what you want, right?
You want to make sure it's a good word for you.
Yes.
And of course, empowering questions are a tremendous way of tuning the RAS. Remember, at least ask better questions than you have been. If you're asking questions like, why is this screwing up? Why can't I get ahead? Your brain will provide answers to that will screw you up royally. You've got to ask the kind of empowering questions like, how will I have a better life? How will I improve my health? This kind of thing. And by doing that, asking those questions, writing them down, 3 to 5 empowering questions. I've given people treatments over the web and charged a lot of money just to go through their life with them and create empowering questions that they do with my help. And then they ask themselves those questions every day. They're constantly, continuously retuning the RAS and getting more what they want out of life.
Speaking of empowering questions and using the word how to formulate your question, I can't remember where this came from, but I read some article recently, or I read something somewhere or saw a video, I don't know what it was, but it was about how is not a very useful word, and it was correct in the context that it was explained, but I want to break this down a little bit. We often tell people to avoid asking why questions and instead ask how questions. And the reason is why questions can tend to keep you stuck in the problem state.
They can unpack a problem
why
state.
Why am I always so tired? Okay, your RAS is now aiming towards being tired, and you're not getting a good answer that aims you towards your target, which might be instead, how can I begin to feel more energetic today and enjoy every moment of my day, whatever it is.
Right.
So the question is the point is to make sure that your question is aiming you at some target state, not aiming you at your stuck state. Now, why questions can be useful in understanding the reasons towards. So why do I want to go to this restaurant tonight?
Sure.
Well, because it's a new experience. How can I go have these new experiences and really enjoy them?
Or even stronger, people? How will I?
Yeah, how will I? How will I connect with people I haven't talked to in a while enjoying a new experience at a cool new restaurant, whatever it is.
And when we switch from how can I to how will I, we're moving from what's called a modal operator of possibility to a modal operator of necessity. As linguists would say.
It's going to happen.
Great stuff, Chris. And, let's everybody do an experiment. And then we're going to do a little hypnotic installation for you.
And then we're going to come back and
then
teach the navigator.
So the experiment is this. Pick a historical person. This is an experiment. Pick an historical, so I'm saying an historical person, Napoleon or Admiral Nelson or, Moses. Doesn't matter who it is.
Dennis Bryce Morgan.
Focus intently on that person and ask your unconscious mind to bring to your awareness something about that person, and notice what happens. And as you listen to my voice and tune your own reticular activating system, you can realize that all the things that you focus on intently, and that which you want dearly, and that which you need in your life, when brought to your awareness congruently and powerfully and continuously, will bring to fruition and fulfillment all the things that you are looking to have in your life. And Chris, there is a special report.
Special report. This just in from Greg Chandler. I was recently in Toronto for the Michael C. Anthony Stage Hypnosis and Mentalism Weekend, and it was a blast. I learned a ton, but there was a strange twist to it all. Like the other students, I ate in the St. Michael's College cafeteria, and the food was pretty good. It was later on that things got a bit weird when I was taking my tray and plate to the kitchen access door for them to be cleaned. As I came out, a man called my name. Although technically he called me Greg Meister, which some of my friends called me in second grade. He was speaking from a door at the end of the dining hall, and he was beckoning me to step into the hallway. He was a tall man with an American accent. He was wearing a pair of running shorts and a Wu-Tang Clan ball cap. Despite my trepidation, I was intrigued and stepped through into the upper floor of Brandon Hall. "When is Michael C. Anthony coming out?" he asked me, pulling a deck of bicycle cards from his pocket. "I want to show him an effect I've been working on." I told him I didn't know, so he said he was going to stick around for a while. But when the door across the hall opened and students began to emerge, the man sprinted downstairs, shouting something that sounded like, "We are not witches!" I suddenly realized it was Gus Grissom. Mr. Chandler went on to report, "It was a great experience. There are many living legends I've wanted to meet, including Henry Squatter, Jack Ruby, and of course, Lady Melbury, but Virgil Gus Grissom has always been number one on my list." Chandler stated that Grissom looked extremely fit and had good playing card skills, but seemed a little tired around the eyes. Over to you, Mike.
Unbelievable, Chris. The Grissom saga has re-erupted and continues.
It's amazing.
Well, let's close off by talking about the navigator system.
All right, so the navigator system is something that, I believe you created in about 2010.
Wow, man.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And it is still powerful and getting glowing reviews from
I still use it.
people. Yep, it's wonderful. So give people a bit of an explanation of what it is and how to use it.
The navigator system is a little more complex, and it's installed from the software in your brain. But I can give you the 101 version you can start to use right away. Basically, it works on a principle of not only tuning your reticular activating system automatically, but it works on a principle called apposition of opposites.
Right.
This is used hypnotically all the time. Basically, it is easier to get someone's hand to rise up in the air if you have something else descending at the same time. So your right hand will rise, your right hand will rise. That's hard to do, but your right hand will rise as your left hand sinks. Putting the opposition in makes the hand rise faster and more readily. So we've applied this to the navigator system, meaning you can get what you want by moving towards one thing and away from something else. So it can be as simple as this. You can install this just by doing it. And like I said, the full product is more complex and detailed than this. But the basic idea is, let's say you're driving and you realize you're being, impatient lately. You give yourself what is called a compass statement to change the direction of your life. And you can do it out loud or just think it. And it's going to be a more and less statement, or a less and more statement. Yeah. Even if it doesn't work grammatically, your unconscious will get it. So you might say, less frustration and more calmness. Then you take a deep breath and relax. That's it. Takes 5 seconds.
Yeah. And you can cascade them too.
Cascade them. You might notice that you're in a really good mood and you say more happiness and less irritation. Deep breath and relax. Or you can say the less statement first. It doesn't matter. But by layering these on each other, especially when you're using nominalizations, nouns that cannot be put in a wheelbarrow, like fulfillment, happiness, frustration, your brain will start to slowly but surely redirect the massive ship that is your life and get you into port safely.
Now, the compass statements, the more or less statements, they don't always have to be opposites to each other either.
No.
So it's just whatever strikes you as logical, as
away from
it's not even
toward.
logic. It's just whatever strikes you as correct in the moment. So you could say less annoyance, more water. Who knows? It could be.
I've never heard anyone say that.
Well,
one.
I know, but
the idea is you're moving away from something and towards something else.
It could be anything, and the water just came from the idea. Well, I'm thirsty right now, so I'm thinking I want to drink some water. But if you wanted, if water was something that you thought you should be drinking more of, it could be more water and less argumentation. I don't know. Whatever.
Have no concern, Chris. We'll just edit that out.
Yeah, it's not. important.
They don't have
for
to be
them
direct
to
opposites.
be direct opposites.
Right,
That's
right.
right. So
I
you
totally
don't have
get
to
it.
say less fatigue, more energy.
No.
Although you can. There's nothing wrong with that.
It could be less fatigue, more focus. It could
Right.
be less fatigue, more health. And you're just moving away from one thing and towards something else. And each time you take a breath, exhale, and relax, and that sets it in the unconscious.
Now, there is also a forgiveness protocol as part of the navigator system. It's supposed to be run ahead of using it, right?
And that's why I said it's more complex than we're giving here, but even this will work to
Right.
a point.
It will, for
You can
sure.
start experimenting.
And
If
the
you're
whole
interested in
idea
more,
of
check it out.
the forgiveness protocol is there to clean the slate,
You got to
right?
clean the slate, create a tabula rasa.
So what can people do without purchasing the navigator system? What can they do to help just clean the slate on the forgiveness side of things? So you're not carrying on to
forgive
crap.
everybody who's ever wronged you in any way, whether or not they deserve it, and
Right.
continue to forgive people.
And remember that forgiving someone is not the same as going back into the cage with the lion.
Yeah, you're not letting them off the hook.
Yeah.
You're not. It's forgiveness is letting someone off the hook and finding out that someone is you. It never justifies bad behavior. It never makes it acceptable.
Yeah. I've
But
forgiven the thief that stole our crap, but
Right,
I'm
we've
not
really-
going to go and put my camera back in that room anymore.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
So think of it, if you have trouble with it being forgiveness, think of it as releasing the person out of your life.
Mm-hmm.
There's people I've had to forgive who've ripped me off, stolen from me. Very good friends did it, in fact, and who were not really friends, but I don't carry any unforgiveness. I've released them. They have no context in my life anymore. By doing that first, you clear the slate, and the navigator will work even
You
better.
know, it's like we say, fire people from your life when they're not
Yeah.
when they're not useful to you, or they're dragging you down. Fire the negative emotions from your life.
Absolutely.
There you go.
And when you give us the empowering questions, Chris?
All right. So here is your empowering question for episode 138. Ask yourself, how will I use what I know to change what I focus on today? And how will I improve my life by bringing my reticular activating system online? What will I do to empower my own RAS to bring more of the great stuff while moving away from what I don't want?
Powerful stuff, buddy. Well, I have a Meta 5 to deliver now. It goes sort of with this. I call it the story of the sick father and the assistant. Many years ago, I had a show at Sheridan College, Oakville, back when I was performing. And a man showed up with his brother, guy in his 20s, and he told me that he had wanted to bring his father to the show, but his father was sick. He really wanted him to see it. And I just started to get my spider sense going off. There was something, this guy was lying to me. And he said, my brother and I want to set up some cameras and tripods and film your entire show, but only so our sick father can see it. I wouldn't let him do it, obviously. Well, it was the right thing because he began running his own hypnosis show, which is what it was. The interesting thing was he put posters up in different places for his show. They were printed just on a printer. They were black and white. They were sloppily done, but they caught the eye because the center of the poster was this absolutely gorgeous girl who looked scantily clad, who looked like she was out of Penthouse magazine or something. I don't read it. Not saying anything wrong with it. But anyway, so that would draw your eye. Then you read the poster, and it talked about his hypnosis show. And under the picture of this girl, it said the assistant. He said, actually, the poster was he was advertising for an assistant. And this is what he wanted her to look like. And he said, if you want to be an assistant in my hypnosis show, we'll pay you pretty good money. You'll be performing at Massey Hall within 2 years. And if you receive death threats or a stalker starts to follow you around, security will be provided. I'm not making this up. You can't make this stuff up.
It's bizarre.
I never heard of him again.
Oh, thank you everybody for listening. This has been Brain Software episode 138 with Mike Mandel. And I'm Chris Thompson. Make sure you check out MikeMandelHypnosis.com/events for what's coming up next. There's lots of cool stuff coming. We got, like I said, Bob Burns is coming to Toronto. We're doing Architecture of Change, and it's just getting better every freaking day. And with that, we close, and I want to give you a special song recorded by our good friend Greg in Scotland.
Yep.
And Greg, you are awesome. So this is cheers to you,
We love
buddy.
you, buddy.
Young man, there's a place you can go. I said, young man, if you're into hypno, you can learn there. And I'm sure you will find many ways to flat on the ground and eyes closed now. Mike Mandel shows you how to zone people through the floor now. It's fun to learn at the LMJ. It's fun to learn at the LMJ. You can learn it all free, sticking hands on the knees. You can learn from the best go see. It's fun to learn at the LMJ. It's fun to learn at the LMJ. They have landscaping too, everything is teaching too. So much value with the best school. Hey you, are you looking to learn about Hellman? Hannum and Milton, and you should go to MMHA today and just sign up now and join us. Hey you, learn the best inductions and hear strange tales of our mangas for some who knew the land could turn out to be fun. Come and join them, some riders now. We're learning hypno at the LMJ. We're learning hypno at the LMJ. Always adding value. Hey, I've been to help you be the best that you can do. That's right, of course, now go to LMJ. That's right, no going this